No, it's not.
We're ready.
We're ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Town of Frasier's regular meeting for Wednesday, December 1st, 2021, and possibly our last meeting for this year, to order at 6:01. Can I please have a roll call?
Katie Fisher.
Andy Miller.
Eileen Waldo.
Parnell Quinn.
Brian Cirkvenick.
Katie Souls.
And Philip Vandernell. Can I have an approval of the agenda? I've been asked to take item F off the consent agenda, so that will go down to under the MOU with Headwaters Trails Alliance. So we'll put that in that item. So I have an approval of the agenda. Or motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Can I now have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from November 17th, Resolution 2021-1201, our GIS Service Center subscription, Resolution 2021-1202, 200 Eisenhower lease agreement, Resolution 2021-1203, Fraser
Valley.
Valley Metropolitan Rec District lease agreement, Resolution 2021-1204 Sharky's license agreement, and Resolution 2021-1206 the 3 mile plan. And just to make note,
Thought you moved the 3 mile plan.
no, I didn't move. I moved F, the rendezvous license agreement. And just to make note here, Trustee Fisher is going to recuse herself from this because of the Sharkey sign. So she will not be voting on this consent agenda. So can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now at public hearing and possible action. First up is the 2022 budget hearing. We've had numerous workshops on this, and this is our second
That's correct.
public hearing of it. So if there's any questions from the board, I'd like to go ahead and open that now. And if there's any questions from the board. Comments? No? Okay,
So
then.
one quick question. So in the capital asset fund, you talk about improvements on the Engelman stand, $100,000. What's the Engelman stand?
Russell still here?
He's upstairs. Do you want me to go grab him?
Or is it a road project or?
It is. I remember now. It's one of those hammerhead turns
Okay.
that's up in, I think it's in Rendezvous.
So it's the name of a road then?
It's
Gotcha,
the name
gotcha.
of a road segment. We actually found out that road segment was built on private property, so we need to move it over a little bit. So
Gotcha. Okay, no worries.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay, Eileen?
So.
I'll check that.
I would like haul truck changed to dump truck. It's on page 11 and but I don't know. And just to make sure I wasn't the only one hung up on this, I messaged 3 truck drivers what a haul truck means to them, and it's not a dump truck. It's off-road, heavy duty.
Okay, anything
Can you
else?
find that spot that needs to be changed?
I'm all right with that. I mean, she can make that. We can,
Okay.
I'm fine with changing from. Okay, next. So granted. Is that
this-
what I say? So granted.
So great. I think we've changed, it says our sales tax is 6%, but I believe it's 5%.
I'll make that change as well. Thank you.
And then in a couple of the, what are we talking about? Just the message now?
The budget, anything to do with the budget.
Resolution 1207 and 1209, Fraser Housing Authority Fund 0 is that accurate, or the 75,000, that's to go into the MOU, not our housing authority?
We
Is
have
that why it's 0 there?
the Fraser Housing Authority. I believe we had that set up at one time, but it's not, there's no funds in that now. All the money that the town has been budgeting both in 2021 and 2022 are under the general fund under community housing. And the 75,000 through the MOU to work with the regional housing authorities is going to come out of that, the funds from the community housing line item, not the housing authority fund.
That's it for me. I mean, the housing authority, we still have.
We still do have that. That's correct, but there's just simply no money in that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good catches. Anybody else? Okay, any public? In the back. Okay, so there's no public here in the building, and I don't see any public online either. So close the public hearing. And now we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 budget for the town of Fraser.
With
Is that the motion you're looking for?
with Eileen's two
With Eileen's change.
changes
Could you repeat your change, please, and where it's located so it gets done?
from hull to dump and from 6 to 5%.
Okay.
Memory like a steel trap.
Yeah. Okay, need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There was a discussion on Facebook about, and it wasn't just about Fraser, but where we use our money. So I pointed out that tonight was a time to question it and to watch. And
Yeah.
as you can see, no one jumped at the opportunity. They were talking about getting an open records request. But I said, you don't need one. These meetings are in public.
Facebook is a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful thing, right?
funny.
Do we have to summarize revenues and expenditures for each? Do we need to go through each of the sub?
Actually, if I can make a recommendation, the sub numbers, AI, A2, A3, all of those can be similar to a consent agenda. You can make one motion to approve
So there's 6 of them.
item A-I through A-VI.
Okay, does somebody want to make that motion? Because I can't.
I'd move to approve resolutions AI, which is a Roman numeral I guess, and then through Roman numeral 4, Roman
Six.
numeral 4.
There's
So
6.
4 or
Six
6.
is that.
Turn the page.
On the other
Oh,
side,
I'm sorry,
5, 6.
6.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are now at resolution 2021-1205 rendezvous license agreement. And Eileen asked for this to be, to have a discussion about this. So
Is this something new? Or you're probably telling me I've voted on it every year, right? But there's no exhibit A. It refers to exhibit A. And that's not in there. I think, yeah.
this isn't our last meeting of the year. We're gonna have to come back for
Well, doesn't it say in Article 4.0 exhibits, all exhibits referred to in this agreement are by reference incorporated herein for all purposes? So wouldn't they be in the document?
But they're not. I don't think.
Well, maybe there aren't any.
But it says there is in Exhibit A.
So the resolution doesn't reference an exhibit though, I mean. The agenda.
Right.
So,
But I still want to understand it and know where it is exactly, I guess.
yeah,
Well, if we don't have that code, a question I would have for Kent would be, since this license agreement is from January the 1st through the end of December, our next board meeting would be January the 5th. Would this negate that lease agreement?
I believe the lease agreement says, or the resolution or the lease agreement says it has to be approved within 60 days, signed within 60 days. And there's no money exchange for the lease agreement.
Oh,
It's just an
okay.
agreement for that, for the sheds.
So in other words, we could wait till January the 5th and bring this back with the exhibits and would still be
I believe
in
so.
compliance with our resolution.
I believe so. I don't have a computer, but I'm sorry.
I think you can do that and ratify it.
So in that case, we'll remove this and bring it up in January 5th. Thank you.
Okay, and then just for future, so that our staff can be prepared, if you could send me a message or staff a message on something, and then Eileen,
Yeah.
instead of waiting for.
I
that's what
didn't
the-
wait very long.
You just looked it up and it wasn't there.
We'd rather have stuff like this taken care of rather than.
Right.
Okay, so now we need a motion to suspend. We need a motion to suspend our town board meeting and enter into the liquor license authority. Did I say that correctly?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then Katie, do you want to make a statement before?
Yes, I'd like to recuse myself from the liquor license authority portion of the meeting tonight because it involves Fisher's Bar.
Okay.
So
Our town clerk, who is also our licensing agent.
So I'm the administrator for the Liquor Licensing Authority, which is the Fraser Town
Yeah,
Board
she will be running this portion of
of the meeting.
it. So, okay.
So the renewal for the liquor license has been brought before the board because within the Fraser Town Code, I generally am able to approve administratively all of the liquor license renewals for the town. But this renewal has been brought to my attention that there are some citations that have been issued that name Fisher's Bar. And because of that, I'm not able to approve the license administratively, and that has to now be referred to the Liquor Licensing Authority for consideration of an approval for the renewal. And so that's why it's being brought before the board tonight. Now, this is not a public hearing. This is just a discussion item as any other agenda item would be on an agenda. So you can ask questions of the applicant. Our police chief is here if you would like to ask any questions about the citations. And you can take public comment, but again, that is not required. It is up to you because it's not a public hearing. So Everything within the renewal, the applicant has provided all of the correct paperwork, the payments, everything that is necessary in order to process a renewal. And again, the only reason it's being brought before the authority is because of I've been informed of the citations that name Fishers. So it has to be for your consideration for that renewal or not. We did not include the actual citations in the packet because the people named in these citations are not the ones going for a liquor license renewal, and we didn't feel that their names should be included in the packet. Through the police department, they could be, an open records request, but we didn't feel that was appropriate for this meeting to include that. So I can answer any questions that you have about the renewal. If you have any questions regarding any.
So when you say the people named, are they the people that got the citations, or are they the previous owners of the location of Fisher's Bar?
No, so there's people named. So when there's a citation, and maybe I should have Glenn
Let's have
speak to
Glenn.
this. Why don't I'll have Glenn speak to it if you don't mind.
Chief Trainer, could you address the citation issues?
Yes.
in
Good
question?
evening, Glenn Trainer, Fraser Winter Park Police Department. So since November 4th of 2020, we've had 5 different incidents at Fisher's Bar that involved potential violations of the Colorado Liquor Code. And one of those was a DUI who admitted having consumed alcohol at Fisher's just a very short time before he was arrested. Unfortunately, he refused all testing, so I can't tell you what his blood alcohol content was. I think more concerning is the fact that we've had 4 incidents since that time period where people have been severely intoxicated. 3 of those actually involved calling an ambulance for the person because they were so intoxicated. Fisher's Bar did receive a written warning on an incident in June of this year. There have been 2 additional incidents since that time. To her credit, Katie has maintained a very open dialogue with Officer Malco, with our police department and our officers. And, I would say fortunately for her, we had another incident this last weekend, and where an individual was kicked out of the bar, kept coming back, and the bartender during that incident did everything she should have. When it was clear that the guy was not going to leave, she called the police, and we ended up dealing with him and issuing him a citation. That is not included in this, but I really feel, staff's recommendation is that the liquor license renewal be approved, and I concur with that. But having said that, I think Katie and the ownership of the bar need to understand that we have 2 other liquor establishments here in the valley, one in Fraser, one in Winter Park, where we've had similar incidents. And both of those establishments are either now facing or will be facing administrative discipline through our municipal court. And so I think, given that we've had, just 2 incidents since the 1st of October, I would hope Katie would understand that this kind of stuff isn't going to happen forever without consequences. And, it's something that is it's a public safety issue, because we don't want drunk people out wandering around in the middle of the highway. We want our citizens to go somewhere, have a great time, but we want them to be safe and to be able to get back home safe. And so if you have any further questions, I certainly will answer them.
So administrative discipline, is that something that's determined by the courts?
Yes.
Okay.
So what
And
would
what-
happen? It's actually a civil procedure. So when you have the liquor code, there are certain violations where you could actually cite, as an example, if a bartender served an underage person, you could cite that bartender into county court on a criminal case. As far as the licensing goes, both the town and the state have concurrent jurisdiction to take administrative action against the license. And through the state, it's through an administrative law judge in both Fraser and Winter Park. It's an administrative hearing before our municipal court.
On the over intoxication, we used to run a bar back in the 80s. So we had a lot of people would come in, they'd be drunk. You'd say no, they'd leave, and the last place they were at was your bar. So that always got us in trouble with that little oversight. And
Well-
then today's people have liquor in their pockets or in their cars, and they get in and drink as soon as you kick them out of the bar, or they take some edible or smoke. So is the police department able to determine the difference between if they're over intoxicated by being served, or was it something that happened afterwards? Or how long after?
Well, I think, Parnell, you need to understand that you wouldn't have these reports if we didn't have evidence that the people were in the bar.
No, right.
It's illegal for somebody to be intoxicated inside a liquor establishment. And, one of these people was so intoxicated, he couldn't even stand up and was inside the bar. Another one was out on the sidewalk in front of the bar. So, I don't think it's fair to muddy the water and say it's not the bar's fault. I mean, this is clearly an issue, and it has to be addressed by the ownership and staff there, or not only could they face administrative issues, but they could be sued, and which could cost you literally everything you own.
Glenn, is there, it's a tough job, a bartender, to recognize this sometimes when a person gets to that point. And I know in the past there was training on different is there training available for bartenders on
Oh, yeah, we have to have
for how to deal
Yes.
with this? Or
Yeah, the
Yes.
TIS training still required.
Absolutely. Officer Malco with our department conducts trainings. Of course, we didn't do any during COVID, but I think we've done, 3 or 4 of them since the 1st of September. Some of Katie's staff have attended those, and we absolutely applaud that. But this is the training he does is actually very comprehensive, in that server training just talks about things that are more, how do you properly run a bar. Jeff actually goes very much into detail about things that can get you in trouble that will cost you your license. And like I said, Katie and her staff have been attending those. We just did one yesterday, and I don't think there was anybody there, but absolutely, we do those on a regular basis, and it's our intent to continue doing those, because we really feel like sometimes people get a job working in the bar, and they don't necessarily have the tools that it takes to be able to tell somebody, maybe one of their friends, I'm sorry, you've had too much, you got to leave, or you're not being served anymore.
Right.
And so we try to give them those kind of tools.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Does the applicant want to address anything, or you don't have to?
I can. I want to address a couple things here.
Okay.
Use your mic.
Oh,
Okay, come up to the podium.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, right, because it's not a board member.
Just a couple things. Katie Fisher, the applicant here. One of the things I wanted to talk about here is that the memo says that it's in the past year, these things have happened. The first one, November 3rd, 2020, which isn't in the last year, which I've already got. We already talked about that when I got my liquor license in the first place. So I was kind of beating a dead horse there with that incident. In my opinion. Let's see here. This one, the male subject stumbling in the roadway. That was a guy that we had provided the receipts to Officer Malcow in video on that incident. The receipt stated that he had 4 Montucky beers, which are little over 4% alcohol in a 2-hour and 18-minute period with food. and they were served by John Feltz, who has been a bartender for 35 years, never had an over-serving ticket in his life. He fell in the rain, hit his head on the railroad tracks, and that's why he was taken to Middle Park, in my opinion, and what didn't have anything to do with alcohol, but I could be wrong. But I just wanted to get that out there. The wheelchair incident, we had numerous people that witnessed the incident. It was a local, you all know. He forgot to put his brakes on his wheelchair chair thing and slipped and fell. He actually did it twice. The second incident's not in here. He did it like a few weeks later. Then we were like, okay, like you can't drink here anymore. You can't. Even though when I talked to Officer Malkow about it, he said that the second time that alcohol wasn't, I mean, he had 2 glasses of wine, not really overserved in my opinion. This DUI, the first I've seen it was when I was looking into this, when I got the packet. Wasn't aware of that. But the guy refused all blood alcohol testing. There's nothing that says I can't serve someone over the legal limit, as long as he's not intoxicated. So I don't know really how there's no personal responsibility on that person's end there either. I know we can do better with what we're doing. We've all attended the classes. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I just wanted to say my piece about the incidents that I know about. And Glenn, if you have any comments on that. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board?
No questions.
No more comments from me.
Motions?
We just have to say a motion to approve.
If that's what your motion is.
Motion to approve Fisher's Fraser Bar LLC liquor license renewal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That
Was that an aye, Katie?
was an aye.
Yes.
Okay, I was straggling there. So, okay, so those are all 6 ayes. Thank you. Now we are at public hearing and possible action, Fisher's Bar LLC modification of premises. And I'm going to turn this over. This is pretty typical of what we do. I'm going to turn this over to our town attorney to run the hearing. And it is, can I have a motion to open that hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Great.
Vote.
Oh, sorry. Was there a second?
Yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the reason that this was turned over to me is this next hearing is a public hearing and it's a quasi judicial hearing. So there are certain ground rules and procedures that I want to lay out so that everybody's on the same page as to how we're going to proceed moving forward through this hearing process. So we're here tonight to conduct a public hearing for consideration of a permit application and report of change for Fisher's Fraser Bar LLC, DBA Fisher's Bar, located at 401 Xeric Street, Fraser, Colorado. And the name of the applicant is Fisher's Fraser Bar LLC, and they seek modification, or they seek approval for modification of their premises. Notice of the application in this hearing have been published and posted as required by law. So this is how we'll proceed tonight. First of all, the proceedings will be recorded electronically. We'll hear evidence and testimony in the following order, if there is any to be heard. First, we'll hear an opening statement or remarks from the applicant and evidence or testimony from the applicant, if they have any to offer. Number 2, then we will hear any evidence or testimony from persons supporting or opposing the application, including any letters or emails that might have been received by the town clerk. Third, we will hear any evidence or testimony from the applicant in rebuttal to or in clarification of any other evidence or testimony presented, and any closing statement or remarks that the applicant wishes to make. After those 3 steps, then all of the evidence and testimony that has been received, including the anything that we've received from persons supporting or opposing the application, Then the members of the board can ask questions of the applicant and anyone else that has testified in support of or in opposition to this application. So at this time, I'd ask all persons who wish to present evidence or testimony to come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and also indicate whether you are a resident of town of Fraser. And I think, given that there's nobody in the audience, it's just Katie. Go to the podium, Katie, and state your name and address for the record. Yeah.
I'm Katie Fisher, the applicant for the modification of premises for Fisher's Fraser Bar LLC. My address is 174 Byers Avenue, Fraser, Colorado.
Is there anybody else such as Glenn? Do you plan to testify at all? Okay. And it doesn't look like anybody else is online. And I guess while you're up there, Katie, maybe we'll jump ahead and just get you sworn in right now so that when you do testify, that step is behind us. So if you could just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So you'll be good to go as soon as we have you come up and
Okay.
do your presentation. The matters that need to be considered by this board after hearing the evidence is you need to consider the facts and the evidence required or permitted to be established under the Colorado Liquor Code and regulations, including section 44-47-302 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, and any other pertinent matters that you believe are relevant to making a decision. For purposes of this and other license applications, the boundaries of the neighborhood, which is a requirement to be defined under the liquor code, are going to be established as the boundaries of the Fraser Valley Metropolitan Recreation District. So it is that area within the Fraser Valley Metropolitan District that people who live within those boundaries can speak to this issue. I think we're at the point where Katie can make her opening statement. But before we do that, Katie, does anybody on the board or in the audience have any objection to the procedures that I've laid out?
You might want to just stay up for the podium for Katie for this.
Okay, hearing none, then before Katie begins her presentation, I'd propose to the board that they accept as part of the record the following initial exhibits: a copy of the application as filed with the town clerk. Number 2, proof of publication and posting of the notice of the hearing. Number 3, a copy of the clerk's findings of facts regarding the application and investigation. And Antoinette, are there any letters or emails in support or in opposition that you've received?
I have not received any.
Okay, then just those 3 items I would ask that the board accept as part of the record. And I think it'd be appropriate for somebody to make a motion to accept those 3 items.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, that's fine, Mr. Mayor. So is there anything else that, Mr. Mayor, that you think we need to address at this point before Katie begins with her opening statement? Okay.
I don't really have a presentation. But no, that was really a requirement tonight. I would have maybe prepared a little bit better, but what we're asking for is we already have been approved for the temporary modification of premise. We're just asking for the permanent of what it was before when the previous owner had it, because when we split, there was 2 liquor licenses in one building. So we had to build the wall and all that. But now we're opening the wall and then I'm gonna just redo, or we're trying to get permanent for the whole area except for the upstairs, which was included in the previous owners, but not what I'm requesting tonight. That's it.
Okay, so back to your original footprint.
Back to the original minus the upstairs.
See up there, we'll have questions for you. Don't sit down, girl, when
So,
we're allowed.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe there's going to be anybody else that is going to speak from the public. So it's not necessary for Katie to give any rebuttal, obviously. So now it's time for the board to ask questions.
I have a question, Katie, on the, your little map of modifications.
Mhm.
It looks like that the deck area, I'm just curious about that. It's involved in the yellow portion. It says 70-foot first floor plan, commercial building. You know, if that's just the whole thing,
Mhm.
but that lower section on the map.
Mhm.
So is that still just the deck?
The deck in the yard where the horseshoe pits are,
Mhm.
right there.
So you're not expanding into that at this point in time? Or are you?
Into the,
Into the, like, are you adding additional structure on where
no,
the deck
no,
is?
no, it's just the patio.
Okay. Good. That was my question.
Seem like there's any more.
So at this point, Mr. Mayor, the board has the following basic options regarding this application. One, you have the right to request an executive session to receive legal advice on any issue related to the application and hearing. Number two, the board can take the matter under advisement and continue the matter for action at a later time within 30 days. Number three, the board can just take action right now on the application by making the appropriate findings and either approving the application with or without conditions or denying the application. Now, you've been provided with a form resolution approving the application, which includes the findings that are the requirements for the modification of premises of the license have been met. If the board elects to not approve, then staff would have to draft an alternative resolution denying.
Thank you. Board.
I move to approve resolution 2021-12-16 Fisher's Fraser Bar LLC modification of premises.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
So we approve that. So we need a motion to close the liquor authority and go back into the board.
So are
Fraser.
we're done with the public hearing, right?
No, the board.
We're
We're
done
done.
with the liquor license authority.
Okay.
So I need a motion to leave that and go back into our board meeting. Is that correct?
Well, and we also have to close the public hearing. Right? Because it was
There
open.
was,
Yeah, it'd be a motion to close the public hearing and go back into regular session.
Yep. Okay, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
there a second?
I second.
Opposed? All in favor?
All right.
I make a motion to close, move out of the liquor and beer licensing authority role. Moving on to our
Is there
regular
a second?
agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. We're now at discussion and possible action, resolution 2021-12-15, preliminary acceptance of Kings Crossing Loop roads.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I just want to give you a little background. Winter Park and Fraser have been working together to put together an agreement that allows us to accept the settlement portion of the roads, which is also referred to as the loop roads. And by definition, that is the Kings Crossing extension. That is Grand Park Drive from the roundabout to the west under the underpass, and also the section of Old Victory Road from the roundabout heading south toward Winter Park. Town of Winter Park has already approved in a similar resolution that would allow the essence of the settlement agreement, which is in your packet, in its substantively in its current form. It would allow the town managers to to execute that settlement agreement with the approval and the consent of the town attorney. A little background, this whole, you probably know it better than I do, to be honest with you. This has been ongoing for some time and originated from a lawsuit several years ago, and has evolved into an agreement, an annexation agreement that stipulated that Cornerstone would be responsible for constructing certain roads. We call those the settlement roads, or the sections that I just described to you. They are supposed to, Cornerstone is supposed to build these roads, and they have been generally constructed. And in our opinion, this could be safely open to traffic at this point. As most of you know, there was a few issues with the road that we had. They had to rebuild a section of that road. But the section of road that they rebuilt was not part of the settlement roads. So part of this agreement says that it allows Winter Park and the town of Fraser to hold surety to ensure that any final remaining items get resolved when construction can resume again next construction season. Kings Crossing Extension, Winter Park will hold $15,000. Old Victory Road, Kings Winter Park will hold $5,000. And our portion of those funds, I don't have that copy with me. It's about $80,000 worth of punch list items. Approving this resolution will authorize me to sign the agreement so we can accept the roads and open them to public traffic. Again, it will require the consent of our town attorney. I've attached both the resolution to this and also a copy of the preliminary acceptance of the road agreement that we have put together. And it's our recommendation that we approve the resolution tonight that allows us to continue to work with Mr. Lipscomb to resolve any last minute issues. The only remaining issues that we have, which are to this point substantively already complete. And he has submitted all the paperwork for the easements, legal descriptions. There are some letters from engineers, as-built engineering drawings and so forth. Those were submitted 2 days ago, and we're currently reviewing those. If those meet our standards, then they have essentially met all the obligations that we would follow using our traditional preliminary acceptance package. So once we review those and we have identified those punch lists and we get surety from Mr. Lipscomb on this property, we can execute this agreement, and accept the roads.
So what's the amount of surety that you're looking at that we need to have?
To complicate things, we have about $80,000 or so just on these settlement roads. We also have another $115,000 on the non-settlement roads, and that includes Grand Park Drive from the roundabout east toward US 40, and also from the roundabout on Old Victory Road to the north to the Willows subdivision. Those two segments of the road are outside of this settlement agreement, and we'll have to use our traditional preliminary acceptance procedures for those roads. So therefore, since we have two different agreements, two different means of approaching this, we have two different settlement options. But again, we're at the point where, quite frankly, if all of these documents that were submitted or meet our satisfaction, then he would have met all the obligations that we would require under just a standard preliminary acceptance. The only condition that we have to consider, though, is Winter Park does not have a similar type of vehicle for accepting those roads outside of this settlement agreement. It's been confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is confusing. I guess so long as we've got enough surety to cover us in the future to get everything accomplished.
When it's also preliminary acceptance. It's not final acceptance.
So preliminary acceptance, just to remind everyone, preliminary acceptance means that that the roads have been done, have been completed, or any construction has been completed substantially to our code. It meets our standards. What happens then is at that point under preliminary acceptance, a warranty period begins. And also the maintenance of those roads will transfer from the builder to the town. If there are any remaining punch list items, and there are quite a few, we've got some manholes and so forth that we still have some issues with. When those are resolved, there's a 1-year warranty period just on that particular item that starts from the day that we accept that particular punch list item. Typically, when we have an agreement for any kind of public improvements, we require letters of credit, bonds, some kind of surety. That gives us the assurance that should the contractor or the builder not complete the work, that we have sufficient funds to come in and step in and hire outside people to have the work completed. The way this whole agreement came about, first of all, the original Second Amendment, which drove this whole settlement road, strictly outlawed surety. Our ability to ask for surety, and also Winter Park's ability to ask for surety. However, Clark has agreed to provide surety so we can get these roads open. So that's typically how it works. But in our case, we don't have any surety, even on the non-settlement roads, because at some points, Clark just went ahead and paved the roads without approval. So we've had to try to backtrack that, go through records, do testing to see if we can find a way to make sure that the roads still meet our standards, even though that we could not be there through part of the construction. It hasn't been pretty.
No.
So
I know it's taken a lot of Russell's time.
It seemed like some of the pavement failure and some of the issues were subsidence, just the settling of the substrate. Are we, so during the warranty period, if there's any continued failure due to settling issues, which, that crossing from King's Crossing across to the underpass was built in the wintertime and without any town inspections. So if that settles and the road fails there, we have recourse to get that.
Yes, we do.
Taken care of. Okay.
During the warranty period.
Yeah, so far it looks good. I wrote it tonight and things look pretty good out there. But that's my concern going into the future. So
I believe that when the road was originally paved, it was paved a year ago, almost in November. And there was some questions at the time about what the temperature is. And I believe that when you pave, you have to be at 50 degrees and rising. And there was some concerns that the subsurface that was put down by the time that they put the top coat on, or the top layer, that it was below those temperatures. So as you saw, there was, the whole road was just sliding down the hill.
Yeah.
And it was so significant that Mr. Lipscomb actually went out there, redid the roads completely, rebuilt the roundabout, redid all the curbs and gutters, especially on that section, not the non-settlement roads, but in the settlement roads, we also had some subgrade issues that have been corrected, had manholes that have also been corrected. And we have been doing almost weekly inspections ever since September, really, to make sure that these roads are meeting our standards.
Anybody else?
So so we're going to be plowing them this winter?
We would be. Once we accept the roads, we'll be plowing the roads.
This is just the loop roads. It doesn't affect the bus route.
Pardon me?
This is just the loop road, so it doesn't affect the potential return of the bus route, the Emerald Line.
Well, our plan is to accept all of the roads, the settlement, the loop roads and the non-loop roads at the same time.
Okay.
Again, the materials that he submitted, our punch list covers both those loop roads and the non-loop roads. We've identified surety for each one of those two sections. The submittals that he needs, the as-built drawings, the engineering, the affidavits from subcontractors that they've been paid, all of the easements, that's standard on both, on any of these loop or non-loop roads. So once we approve, like I said, once Russell gets a chance to review those and everything is in order, we're ready to execute an agreement so that we can get the roads open.
Okay.
But the bus route right now is not running there. It's not running there, but not because of the roads and the acceptance of the road, because we still have a license agreement with Mr. Lipscomb that he maintains the roads until they're accepted. The bus routes right now are just facing driver shortages, and in Winter Park, and worked with First Transit. According to our agreement, Winter Park has the executive say in that. They elected to eliminate the Emerald bus line, which runs basically through Old Victory Road and Elk Creek and even into Old Town.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Well, the driver shortage affected other places too, which just made a difference in scheduling, right? Not a complete
correct.
elimination.
Right.
Can that be explained?
I can only explain what I've been told. And what I was told was that the Emerald line was one of the last routes that was added just in the past recent couple of years. The black line is continuing to run as well as the teal line and the purple line, which serves, of course, serves Fraser. And the election was they had to make the schedule work. Winter Park and First Transit decided that the black line could still serve the residents of Fraser. So they eliminated that, but they'd also reduced routes and combined routes in both Winter Park and in Fraser.
Does anybody know what the county routes, what do they put into the bus system? Ones that go through Meadow Ridge and
What their financial contribution is, I don't know unless Beth knows.
Okay. Since this is not about,
Yeah, save that for
Can we-
business,
can we
not on the
stay-
agenda.
yeah, I just thought about that.
Excuse me.
okay, any other questions, comments, motions?
Brian, did you hear about this are you on TAC?
This road? No, we haven't had a meeting since.
This preliminary acceptance that we have has to be done because there's no other agreements that were in place, or
There is an improvement agreement that dealt with Grand Park Drive, and it references both Old Victory and the extension as well. But that agreement, we're also missing other documents as far as engineering drawings and plans for Old Victory Road. Again, you don't really start a project unless both parties agree and sign off on that. And we were not to the point where we had full acceptance of the engineering plan for Old Victory Road. So that's another hurdle that we're trying to overcome. And I don't know when that occurred. It was before I arrived in Fraser, but the lack of surety, the lack of those approved drawings, even back in September, having to rebuild parts of the road, it's just been a very complicated process. And because of the lack of roads, I will say that, and having to rebuild the roads, we had some doubts from the town side of accepting roads without some kind of surety. Because we need something to fall back onto. We're just not going to accept a substandard road. And we need the assurances that it was built correctly and that it will stand the test of time.
any idea why the inspections and stuff weren't done? Why that wasn't done before? If we're doing weekly inspections now, why aren't we doing? I mean, everything, see the
can't-
roads are being built. So why don't we have
I-
them inspected?
When he built that section of Old Victory Road, Russell just showed up one day, and said, they just paved a section of road. I said, what section? It's Old Victory Road. He said, we don't have any agreements in place for that. We don't have any kind of nothing. I mean, technically, we could have made him dig it up. We tried to find a way around that.
I think it's.
Good.
Builder
By
talk-
doing
build-
this, it doesn't
builder
hold it
talk-
up.
Builder talk would be, I've completed, I'm at this stage and can you come inspect?
That's
And-
how-
and-
that's how
and
I
if-
do it,
and if the builder didn't say, hey, we need the inspection, then it's not, I don't think it's on the town of Fraser to
No, we don't
to
inspect.
to go monitor somebody's building.
No, we don't inspect. Our procedures are that they have an engineering firm that basically signs a statement and says, yes, that thing was built to standards. But we didn't even have engineered drawings that were accurate.
Any other comments or questions or motions?
I'd like to make a motion. If there's no more comments, to approve resolution 2021-1215, preliminary acceptance of Kings Crossing Loop roads.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Open forum business not on the agenda. This is where the public can request time. There's nobody online and there's nobody in our audience here, so we'll move on to updates.
So
Anybody have any updates?
I guess I'm kind of disturbed about the fact that there aren't TAC meetings, which were they twice a month when you were on it, or every
It
other
was
week?
once a month. It was once a month.
Oh, it was once a month.
And this hasn't
There
been brought up.
Haven't been any, huh?
I was disturbed enough that I talked to the mayor of Winter Park and he didn't know why. He did not know why the Emerald had been shut down. Yeah, either. So I think it was very unprofessional of Winter Park to do this and not let us know. So,
Well, that's what I was
and they need to, I mean, we're a partner and they should let us know what's going on. So we're not blindsided by this. And I would hope that they have that message now loud and clear.
Right,
And then the
because we're
past,
supposed to have a voice on the
Yeah,
board.
yeah. They have the town of Winter Park has the ultimate decision on what happens,
Right,
but
but-
we're supposed to be a partner and have a voice there. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
last-
think it's unfortunate that they did what they did. So.
Our last meeting was the first time I had heard that it was cut. So
When was
it
that?
happened after the last TAC meeting.
Our last meeting.
Our last Fraser Town. meeting.
Gotcha, yeah. Well, back to the Emerald line, as much as, the Grand Park residents rely on it, the service is the Tubing Hill. And there's so many people that, there's a lot of cars, I imagine that a majority of them, but you still see people walking along the road that want to get there. And that's a huge benefit to everyone. So if they do get more drivers, I would somehow encourage the town of Winter Park to add like an hourly service with the Emerald line. So that's still an option for those people.
But my argument is how much we contribute versus how much the county contributes. Winter Park Ranch, they didn't shut any of their lines down or even cut them back.
It was a little bit. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, it
Sounds like
seemed
it's
real
time for us-
lopsided to me.
A TAC meeting.
So there's a-
I know that their Ivy Compton moved on, so they don't have, that's their Michael
Cook.
Cook
Yeah, replacement.
replacement. So she's
Oh.
moved on and I heard that Michael is going to come back and fill in.
Okay, so that's probably part of it. There
Well,
was
it's still
that-
not an excuse.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was just,
Somebody made this decision without.
So there
Lots
is a
of continuity.
contribution from the Meadow Ridge HOA, but
It's,
it'd be interesting to know how much it is. So,
my understanding, it's
yeah,
very minor compared to the amount of service they get.
sure.
and it's certainly minor compared to what we pay.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. And the black line running straight down 40 doesn't do a whole, I mean, it's great because it's fast, but it doesn't.
Yeah, you need to
Service
get, you
anybody.
need to get into the neighborhoods. and-
Yeah.
So. Yeah, okay. Any other updates?
So I had a request from Northwest Colorado Council of Governments. Is it all right if I continue being the representative on that or? So. right, They asked who the town of Fraser representative would be for next year. So I'm on their executive committee still and happy to continue to serve in that if that's all right with everybody. So
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Andy.
No worries.
Thank you.
And if I could add to that, that also still shows West Levanchi as being the alternate. So
Okay,
we
yeah.
need to make the change to include
Okay.
me as the alternate, unless
Okay.
somebody else would like to be
If
the
you
alternate.
think of it, I'd email them if you would, or I'll try to email them. So.
Okay.
We meet in the morning too, but. And then with all the rentals and everything on the consent agenda, I continue to think about Eisenhower and the ambulance building. And so the bond issue did pass, and they're going to do some major work to the Fraser facility. I'd really like us to have a serious conversation with the county about possibly getting that property back again and possibly putting the ambulance. You think about it, with the ability to access the traffic light, maybe a good place for them would be up in our property up by the tubing hill. That's a little ways off the highway, but there's an underpass there, and they're quicker access to the traffic light. Whereas on Eisenhower right now, getting out on the highway, they do have their lights on, but that's still a really crazy intersection for them to come charging out on. So the old library building there that building could serve for some commercial purposes to help invigorate our downtown area on Eisenhower, which I think is a fairly low hanging fruit as far as a good place to put that. And that also, we've got a property between that building and our property on the corner, but those two properties, the property on the corner and the ambulance property, could be possibly commercial with employee housing above as well. So I think that would be a good opportune moment to talk to the county, because the county owns that property, I believe. And then EMS must have a lease agreement with the county, I would assume. So
Find a new home.
it's a neat neighborhood we've got going on there. So
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Any other updates? Okay. We kind of a motion, then we'll see everybody next year.
Okay.
before 7 o'clock.
No, it's
Hooray.
I move to
barely.
adjourn our longest agenda and our shortest meeting of the year.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?